Top 15 tight end rankings heading into week 11 here. The first guy each and every week he's on here, it's Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. This guy's more of a wide receiver. He's Mahomes' number one target. No linebackers and safeties. They can't cover this guy. He knows how to use his body. He's got great hands. He boxes you out. And I could expect a 25 to 30 point fantasy day from Kelce versus a depleted Raiders defense, who most of them are going on the COVID list. The next guy is Darren Waller at number 2. Last week, he dropped a deep ball that would have been a 50, 60-yard touchdown was Waller. He's the number one target over there in Oakland. And this week, they're going to need him in a big way. He had a decent game versus the Chiefs last time when they pulled the upset. But this Chief defense, they're going to come out rough and tough. The reports came out the other day that they were dancing around the stadium, was rooting in the Raiders. So Waller and the Raiders, they better watch out. This Chief defense, they put the hats on the ball too, man, and they can make some plays this week. So Waller, I still think he has a decent fantasy game, but he's a guy I set to sell too. He's not a slam dunk like a Travis Kelce each and every week, but I'm going to rank him 2 here. Number 3 is Rob Gronkowski of the Tampa Bay Bucks. The last 5 weeks, Gronk's really come back into shape. He looks like the Gronk of old, carrying defenders on him like he did last week on a nice 44-yard catch and run. And then he scored a touchdown. And Gronk, each and every week, he just has about that touchdown chance. And he's going to find the end zone, I think, again, versus the Rams. And he's been consistent now in the last 5-6 weeks, like I said. So Gronk's number 3. Number 4, T.J. Hawkinson. He came off a bad ball game. In week 10 was Hawkinson versus Washington, which was a surprise to me. He's one of the best tight ends in the league. That was his worst fantasy game of the season, Hawkinson. But he's got Carolina now. He's going to bounce back. Kenny Golladay, he did practice today, so if he comes back, it's going to open the field up more for Hawk. He's a big target, big red zone guy, and Matthew Stafford's security blanket, and he's going to rely on him in this ball game versus Carolina. So he's number 4. Number 5, Hunter Henry versus the New York Jets. We were waiting for Hunter Henry to finally score a touchdown, and he did last week versus the Miami Dolphins, open in the back of the end zone. And this week he's got a dream matchup versus a weak Jet defense that can cover nobody, and I could expect Henry to find the end zone maybe once or twice in this one with a 60 to 70-yard game. Henry, he was on my start list. He's in a great matchup, and he's ranked number 5 here. Number 6, Dallas Goedert at the Cleveland Browns. Goddard, he's disappeared since he came back versus Dallas and then the Giants last week. But I think Goddard and Wentz, they're going to get it together this week. Reports are Zach Ertz, he's off the designated IR list. He started practicing today, but we don't know if he's going to play. So I left Ertz off the list here. But if Goddard's the man this week, I think he's going to find a hole in that Cleveland defense and get 50, 60 yards and possibly a touchdown. The next guy is Eric Ebron. He was doing great the last 3 weeks before last, where he had double-digit fantasy points and a touchdown in each of those games. And this week, he versus a weak Jacksonville defense that everyone could score on. And I think Ebron, he finds the end zone in this one. And I also had him on my start list. Number 8's Logan Thomas, another guy I had on my start list this week. And I'm always back and forth with him. But a weak Cincinnati Bengal linebacking crew coming to town versus Washington. Washington, they're going to throw the ball a lot. We saw Alex Smith throw it 55 times last week. That's not going to happen this week, of course. I still see him throwing the rock 35, 40 times. It's going to be a decent shootout versus 2 struggling offenses. But I like this game, and I think Logan Thomas, he'll get his 4 catches, 60 yards, and possibly add a touchdown. Number 9's Hayden Hurst of the Atlanta Falcons. Hurst, he's been consistent now. Since Julio Jones came back in the lineup in Week 6, it opens the middle of the field up for him. Gets easy one-on-one coverage. Now Calvin Ridley, he should be back in this ball game as well. So Hayden Hurst, I like him versus New Orleans. They're indoors, obviously. And this is going to be a shootout here in the NFC South Division. So Hayden Hurst, I could see him getting 70, 80 yards and possibly a score. The next guy is Jared Cook. He was on my start list. He's disappeared the last few weeks, but now Jameis Winston in a quarterback. I think he's going to look for Cook as his security guy, his check down guy. We got Sanders and Michael Thomas over there too as New Orleans, but I think Cook is going to find the end zone in this one with 30, 40 yards and a touchdown and I just like the matchup for him. Atlanta, they can't stop no one, and I think Cook could find the holes and make a few plays in this one. Number 11's Mark Andrews. I said to bench him this week versus Tennessee. He had a good game last week. It was nice to see him with 7 catches, 61 yards, and in a PPR league, 13 points. But he's a touchdown-dependent tight end, and we've seen this season he's had his struggles. The prior 3 weeks to last, he's had single-point games, and this week I could see it happen again versus Tennessee, where that defense, they're going to try to get to Jackson early and often and let the receivers like Willie Snead and Hollywood Brown try to beat him. Number 12 is Jonnu Smith, touchdown-dependent Smith, more like it. The last 2 weeks, if he didn't get the touchdown, it would have been 6 games in a row where Jonnu Smith scored 5 or less fantasy points. And this week he's got a very tough matchup at the Baltimore Ravens. Tight end's a weak position, so this is why he's at number 12. But Baltimore gives up the 4th least amount fantasy points to tight ends. And it's going to be tough for Jonnu Smith, I think, this week to find the end zone and find consistency. He's the 4th option in that offense, so I'm steering away from him, but he's still going to be a top 12 guy. Number 13's Noah Fant of the Denver Broncos, another guy I had on the bench list, just like Jonnu Smith. And Fant, the stats haven't been there, just the injuries have the last few weeks with that ankle and the ribs and stuff. And Fant now, he's got a very tough matchup versus a tough Miami Dolphin defense that makes you earn everything you could get versus them. So it's going to be a tough game for Fant. Denver, I don't know if even Drew Lock's going to start or not, so it's going to be tough sledding for Fant. I said to bench him, but I got him 13 here. Number 14, Dalton Schultz of the Dallas Cowboys. I think he could have a decent game with Andy Dalton back and maybe get you 10, 12 points in PPR with 5 or 6 catches for 50 yards. Schultz, he'll be open in the middle of the field. The attention's going to go to Cooper, Lamb, and Michael Gallup. And Minnesota, they give up points to the tight ends. So I think Schultz can have a decent game, and I like him than some better options out there. And number 15, we're staying in the same games. Kyle Rudolph, we saw him finally have a good game versus the Chicago Bears last week on Monday Night Football, even though he coughed one up in the secondary on a fumble. But Rudolph, he's got a great matchup versus Dallas. Even if Irv Smith plays, I don't know if he's 100% with that groin. And Rudolph, he's a tall tight end. I think he could get open and he could find the end zone. It's just a plus matchup, and he's a guy that definitely could score here in this game. So that's the top 15 tight ends I'm ranking here going into Week 11.